You always know it's doom when the music drops, the doors lock, and suddenly you're knee-deep in hell with only a shotgun and bad decisions. We're breaking down every Doom game and how it got so gloriously violent. Doom, 1993. Let's rewind to 1993, a time when jeans were baggy, modems screamed like dying robots, and id Software decided to unleash Doom. A game so loud, bloody, and unapologetically metal that it basically melted the face off the entire gaming industry. You play as an unnamed space marine. The fans called him Doom Guy. The devs called him a walking war crime. You've been exiled to Mars for punching a superior officer because he told you to shoot civilians. And just when you think it's all boring dust and bad coffee, the Union Aerospace Corporation opens a portal to hell. Because of course they do. That's where everything goes to, well, hell. Literally. One minute, you're guarding a corridor, the next, the moons of Mars, Phobos and Deimos, are overrun by zombies, demons, and more pixelated gore than any monitor was ready for. You grab a pistol, grit your teeth, and march straight into the slaughter. You're not here for stealth, plot twists, or emotional dialogue. You're here to blow up demons until your keyboard starts smoking. The gameplay was fast, brutal, and addictive. You sprint through corridors, grab color-coded keycards, and juggle an arsenal that feels like a toolbox for mass destruction. The shotgun, perfect. The chainsaw, therapeutic. The rocket launcher, a gift from whatever god still bothers with Mars. And then there's the BFG 9000, a name that says everything. Doom's monsters became legends overnight. You've got the imps, the Kako demons, the barons of hell, each one uglier and angrier than the last. And the AI? Dumb as a brick, but that's part of the fun. You're not fighting tactical geniuses, you're mowing down meat with wings, teeth, and bad intentions. It's pure, primal, video game carnage. But here's what made Doom special. It was like a movement in gaming history. It gave us deathmatch, it gave us modding, it gave us speedrunning. It turned gamers into map makers, designers, and code wizards. id Software basically handed players the keys to hell and said, make it worse. And they did. Fans built custom WADs that turned Doom into Alien, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, and The Simpsons. By 1995, over 10 million PCs had Doom installed, half of them probably at offices where productivity died a fiery death. Of course, Doom also sparked controversy. Parents hated it, politicians feared it, church groups called it satanic, but for gamers, it was freedom. Loud, pixelated, chainsaw-wielding freedom. It was the moment we realized games didn't have to just tell stories, they could unleash them. Doom 2, Hell on Earth, 1994. You'd think after single-handedly wiping out the forces of hell, our dude Doom Guy would finally get a vacation, maybe a cold beer, maybe a therapist. Nope, he lands back on Earth only to find out the planet's gone full demonic barbecue. Cities have turned to rubble, humanity's running for the last starships, and Doom Guy's looking at the apocalypse like, here we go again. So Doom 2 picks up right where the first left off. No time skips, no plot twists, just more hell. Earth is swarming with demons, and the only evacuation route, a giant starport, is shielded by a force field. The military tries to retake it, but everyone dies horribly. Except our guy, of course. He tears through the starport, disables the shield, and watches the survivors escape. Then, just as he's preparing to die in peace, he learns the demons are coming from his hometown. Bro can't even have a moment. Naturally, he straps up, loads his boomstick, and heads straight back into the fire. The story ends with Doom Guy marching into hell again, squaring up against the Icon of Sin, a skyscraper-sized demon head that spews monsters from its forehead, and blasting it into chunky salsa. Humanity is saved, again, hell's in shambles, again, and Doom Guy probably hasn't blinked in 3 days. Now gameplay-wise, Doom 2 did not reinvent the chainsaw, it just gave it more fuel. The combat's still fast, bloody, and powered by pure caffeine and metal, but this time it's bigger. 30 levels of chaos, no episode breaks, and the levels themselves feel more sprawling and non-linear. You're not just running through bases anymore, you're blasting through ruined cities, burning suburbs, and eventually hell itself. The environments look more like a fever dream built by someone who really hates geometry. And then there's the arsenal upgrade that changed everything. The super shotgun. 2 barrels, 1 trigger, and more stopping power than an orbital cannon. It's the most satisfying weapon sound in history, that ka-chunk. Oh man. The rest of the toys return. Chain gun, rocket launcher, plasma gun, and of course, the BFG 9000. But that super shotgun became the Doom weapon. Doom 2 also introduced some of the franchise's nastiest new demons. You've got revenants, skeletons with homing rockets and too much energy, mancubi, big angry meat tanks who dual-wield flamethrowers, arachnotrons, the brain spider hybrids nobody asked for, and then the Archvile, the true nightmare fuel. He's tall, fast, resurrects dead demons, and sets you on fire. If the imps are Hell's foot soldiers, the Archvile is middle management with fire insurance. There were secret Wolfenstein throwback levels too, complete with Nazis, which got censored in Germany because apparently pixel swastikas were still a little too spicy in the 90s. But everywhere else, players were too busy exploding demons to even notice. Doom 2 did not reinvent the formula, but it doubled down on what worked. Fast action, killer music, and a story that was basically, you're mad, shoot everything. It sold over 2 million copies, made Doom Guy a cultural icon, and gave the multiplayer world the deathmatch map Entryway, the original FPS arena that taught generations how to frag their friends. Final Doom, 1996. If you thought Doom 2 wrapped things up, surprise, Hell does not quit, and neither does id Software. Final Doom landed in 96, the last Doom game that absolutely was not. Think of it as a double-disc mixtape from Hell. 2 full campaigns, 64 levels of pain, and 0 chill. It's the point where modders officially became developers, and fans realized final in gaming means we'll see you next year. Final Doom is split into 2 megawads, TNT Evolution and the Plutonia Experiment, both cooked up by the community legends at Team TNT. These were not just fan maps slapped together in someone's basement, though yeah, probably still some basements were involved. id Software was so impressed they bought Evolution outright and asked brothers Dario and Milo Casali to craft Plutonia specifically for this release. The result? 2 different flavors of pain. Evolution is your classic Doom sci-fi horror. The UAC, because they never learn, start messing with dimensional gates again, this time on one of Jupiter's moons. You're a Marine stationed there, probably thinking you'll retire with a pension and a nice crater view, until a supply ship shows up made of flesh, steel, and bad vibes. It vomits demons all over the base, and suddenly you're the last guy standing. Your new mission? Revenge. You fight through bases, moonscapes, and Hell's front porch to rip and tear your way to the icon of sin one more time. It's Doom, but with a little more story, a lot more traps, and a soundtrack that just slaps. Then there's the Plutonia Experiment, aka Doom if the developers actively hated you. After Hell's invasion of Earth, humanity rebuilds the UAC, because clearly corporate accountability doesn't exist in the 22nd century, and starts testing something called the Quantum Accelerator, basically a demon-stopping device. Spoiler, it does not work. Hell smells opportunity, opens 7 gates at once, and throws a housewarming party. You play as a lone Marine who skips his beach day to single-handedly close Hell itself. Plutonia's level design is pure sadism. Narrow corridors, ambushes that mock your confidence, and archviles waiting around every corner like jump-scare comedians. It's Doom on Nightmare++ mode, and that's exactly how fans liked it. Gameplay-wise, Final Doom does not mess with perfection. No new weapons, no new demons, just smarter and crueler level design. It's all about how well you think while panicking. The Plutonia levels especially are designed by people who probably smiled while testing them. Evolution plays like a professional remix of Doom 2, but Plutonia, that's where your reflexes go to die. The PlayStation port toned things down. Fewer levels, slower frame rate, ambient horror soundtrack by Aubrey Hodges, and swapped metal guitars for industrial nightmares. It's moodier, creepier, and more atmospheric, even if the hardware couldn't handle every demon in the file. Reviewers were split. Some said it's just more Doom. Others said, thank God, it's more Doom. And that's the thing. Final Doom never needed to reinvent anything. It existed for people who finished Doom 2 on ultra-violence and thought, yeah, I could go harder. Doom 64, 1997. By 1997, shooters had moved on. The world was discovering polygons, Quake was rewriting the rulebook, and Doom was still ripping demons apart with a shotgun. But then came Doom 64, a cursed cartridge that crawled out of hell and onto the Nintendo 64, proving that id Software's Hellspawn could still melt your brain even in 64 bits. Developed by Midway under id's supervision, Doom 64 was not just another port, it was a full-blown sequel disguised as one. The premise? After the events of Doom 2 and Final Doom, UAC facilities sit abandoned and irradiated until something stirs. A demon with the power to resurrect corpses starts reanimating Hell's leftovers, and the Marine, the same absolute maniac from the earlier games, straps on his blood-stained gloves and says, "Fine, round 4." Gameplay-wise, this is still the Doom you know. Tight corridors, ambush-heavy combat, and more switches than a 90s light show. But Doom 64 leaned hard into atmosphere. Gone were the metal riffs, replaced with Aubrey Hodge's industrial horror soundtrack that makes your spine hum. The lighting engine was new, the sprites were redesigned, and the vibe was pure dread. Every weapon got a glow-up. The chainsaw gained a second blade because one was clearly not enough. The super shotgun kicked like a mule, and the new kid on the block, the Unmaker, finally realized a concept id scrapped back in '93 with hidden artifacts to upgrade it. The Unmaker turned you into an unholy laser priest, vaporizing demons with style. As for the enemies, Doom 64 reimagined familiar faces while cutting a few. No Revenants, no Spider Mastermind, no Archviles. Nintendo probably did not want kids crying. But Midway introduced the Nightmare Imp, a translucent, turbocharged demon with infinite spite, and topped it off with the Mother Demon, the big bad responsible for Hell's comeback tour. The finale sees our Marines slaughter her and then choose to stay behind. Not out of duty, but because he's probably just too far gone to do anything else. He literally retired in Hell. Critics at the time called Doom 64 the best-looking Doom ever made. And they weren't wrong. It had dynamic lighting, creepy architecture, and levels that folded in on themselves like haunted origami. Sure, it didn't reinvent the formula, but again, it didn't need to. It was still Doom, just meaner, moodier, and dripping with that late 90s menace. Then, like a ghost, it disappeared, until Night Dive Studios resurrected it in 2020 with a remaster that added the lost levels, tying the classic saga directly into Doom Eternal, because of course, Doom Guy's eternal punishment was basically canonically eternal. Doom 64 is the unsung bridge between Final Doom's chaos and Doom 3's dread, a fever dream wrapped in pixelated shadow. It's Doom at its most haunted, its most mature, and somehow its most underrated. Doom 3, 2004. By 2004, Doom was a legend, but with Doom 3, id Software reinvented fear. Gone were the pixelated mazes of the 90s. This time, Doom wanted to make you sweat. You're no longer a faceless marine mowing through hordes of demons. You're a lone soldier, trapped in the flickering dark, clutching a flashlight in one hand and a shotgun in the other, praying the next noise is not another imp crawling out of a vent. Set on Mars in the year 2145, Doom 3 opens with the Union Aerospace Corporation doing what sci-fi corporations do best, pushing science way too far. They found ruins from an ancient Martian civilization, deciphered teleportation tech buried beneath the surface, and, because this is Doom, accidentally opened a literal gateway to hell. The result is catastrophic. Within minutes, the base is crawling with the dead and the damned, and you, a nameless marine, are humanity's last line of defense. Again. Technologically, Doom 3 was a revolution. John Carmack's id Tech 4 engine changed the way games looked and felt. Every light and shadow was rendered in real time, giving the game its signature claustrophobic atmosphere. Every flickering bulb, every door creak, every sudden flash of red light sold the illusion of terror. And those shadows, they were not just for show, they could hide anything. But Doom 3 was not all about the visuals, it was about tension. Instead of charging headfirst through endless mobs, you were creeping through hallways where the sound of your own breathing was a weaponized jump scare. The flashlight mechanic became infamous. You could either see the monsters or you could shoot them, but not both. It turned every encounter into a panic-fueled gamble. The story, crafted by professional writer Matthew J. Costello, was darker and more cinematic than ever before. Through voice logs, emails, and PDA messages, you piece together the downfall of Mars City. Scientists possessed by hell, betrayals buried in corporate ambition, and Dr. Malcolm Betruger, the man who thought he could control the demons, becoming one himself. The moment you realize he's transformed into the demonic maledict, the entire story comes full circle. Mars didn't just fall into hell. Hell found a new host. Gameplay-wise, Doom 3 kept the series' arsenal intact but reimagined for realism. Reload animations, limited visibility, and slower pacing emphasized survival over pure carnage. You had to earn your firefights. Every weapon from the classic shotgun to the new grenades and soul cube had a specific rhythm. Each encounter was as much about timing as it was about aiming. When it launched, Doom 3 demanded top-tier hardware. It was the game that made people upgrade their PCs, just like the original Doom and Quake did a decade earlier. The Xbox version, though visually scaled back, proved surprisingly faithful, complete with a collector's edition that threw in the classics for good measure. Doom 3: Resurrection of Evil, 2005. If Doom 3 was a haunted house on Mars, Resurrection of Evil is the part where the haunted house catches fire and starts screaming at you. Developed by Nerve Software and id, this expansion throws you right back into the smoking crater that Doom 3 left behind, and then hands you a double-barreled shotgun as if to say, "Good luck, champ." It's 2 years later, and the Union Aerospace Corporation, because they never learn, has decided to restart experiments on Mars. Dr. Elizabeth McNeil, who definitely has "this is a bad idea" energy, sends a new Marine, that's you, to investigate a mysterious artifact buried deep beneath Erebus Labs. Touch it, and boom, another hell invasion. Demons pour in like it's Black Friday, and souls are half off. And Mars becomes the galaxy's least desirable Airbnb all over again. The artifact itself is called the Heart of Hell, a demonic relic that grants 3 powers: slow time, hell time, berserk strength, and temporary invulnerability. Basically, it's a cheat code powered by human souls. Each time you activate it, you can feel the game whisper, "You're not the hero here, bud. You're just the scariest thing left alive." And if the artifact doesn't make you feel like a god, the grabber gun will. Think of it as Doom's sassier answer to Half-Life's gravity gun. It can snatch fireballs midair and yeet them back into a demon's face, like the universe's most violent tennis match. Then there's the super shotgun, back from Doom 2, and still capable of reducing enemies into high-speed red mist. The expansion keeps the oppressive tension of Doom 3, but dials the pace up a notch. The flashlight fiasco? Fixed. Now it's attached to your pistol. The shadows? Still terrifying, but you move faster, shoot harder, and curse louder. And the enemies? You've got new nightmares to meet. The Vulgar, an edgier imp, the Bruiser, a cyborg Hell Knight with a literal monitor face, and the Forgotten Ones, flaming skulls that scream like your GPU under stress. The story dives deeper into the mythology of Doom 3's Mars. Dr. McNeil guides you remotely while you shut down bases, fight Hell Hunters, each dropping a new artifact power, and slowly descend toward the inevitable, Betruger's final form, the winged monstrosity known as the Maledict. The fight is brutal. He bites you, crushes you, mocks you, and you end it by shoving the heart of hell straight down his throat. It's the most metal thing a Marine has ever done. Then comes the cryptic finale, McNeil's voice over a blinding white light saying, "Marine, welcome home." Is she saving you? Are you dead? Are you possessed? Promoted to CEO of Damnation Incorporated? Nobody knows, and that's kind of the beauty of it. Doom RPG, 2005. Okay, imagine you're living in 2005. You've got a flip phone, a polyphonic ringtone, and suddenly, boom, Doom shows up on your tiny screen like it's breaking the laws of technology. This is not the Doom that melted your PC back in the 90s. This is Doom RPG, the turn-based, text-heavy cousin who still rips and tears, just a little slower. Developed by Fountainhead Entertainment and id Software, this mobile spin-off somehow crammed Mars, demons, and bad decisions into a Java game that ran on phones smaller than your mouse. It's set in 2145. The Marines return to Mars after the events of Doom 3. Same guy, same demons, new approach. Talking to scientists before punching them. Character development. Here's the twist though, it's a turn-based RPG. Yeah, you heard me. You move one square at a time, spin in 90-degree turns, and fight Hellspawn in polite, menu-driven combat. It's like Doom met Pokemon and said, let's settle this civilly. You can even have time to think before the imps melt your face off, which, let's be honest, is not a Doom tradition. The story is pure sci-fi soap opera. You arrive at a UAC facility overrun by demons, again, and start chatting up scientists who are all definitely hiding something. Turns out one Dr. Girard is secretly the disgraced researcher Kronos, who's been experimenting with teleportation because no one in this universe ever learns. Cue betrayal, demonic transformation, and the obligatory cyber-demon boss fight, because it's not really Doom without one. What makes Doom RPG oddly brilliant is how much of its DNA it keeps. The iconic status bar face, the sound effects, the BFG, and the eternal quest to make Mars regret existing. But there's also bizarre new stuff, like a fire extinguisher weapon, an axe, and hellhounds that you can capture and use as a weapon or a shield. You basically become the world's angriest Pokemon trainer. Despite the hardware limits, the game looked surprisingly close to classic Doom, just with more dialogue and less running for your life. Players explored 7 sectors of the Mars base, gathering clues, unlocking doors, and chatting with suspiciously calm scientists while hell literally leaked through the walls. It wasn't just a gimmick either. Doom RPG sold over 1 million copies, won multiple Mobile Game of the Year awards, and proved that even on a Nokia, you could still make hell pay rent. John Carmack himself coded parts of it, which means this was not a lazy cash grab. It was Doom, redesigned for the pre-smartphone apocalypse. Sure, it's weird, it's slow, but in an era where your best mobile game was Snake, this was a mini miracle. Proof that even when you strip Doom down to a 12-key keypad and a 2-inch screen, it still knows how to raise hell. Doom Resurrection, 2009. So, Doom Resurrection is what happens when someone at id Software says, "What if Doom, but you don't move?" Released in 2009 for the iPhone, this on-rails shooter took Doom 3's grimy Mars nightmare and duct-taped it to accelerometer controls, turning your smartphone into a pocket-sized panic simulator. You play as a lone surviving Bravo Team Marine, one of the poor souls who didn't make it in Doom 3, teaming up with a floating robot buddy named Sam and a scientist named Dr. Garrett. Together, you fight through Mars City, Delta Labs, and even a pit stop in literal hell, blasting zombies, imps, and a couple of very angry Hell Knights along the way. It's essentially Doom 3 the Disneyland ride, complete with scripted scares, tight corridors, and zero freedom to actually go anywhere but forward. The gameplay is wild for 2009. You tilt your phone to aim, tap to shoot, and dodge incoming demon claws with an on-screen button. The controls were surprisingly smooth. John Carmack himself led the project and made sure this thing ran better than half the App Store at the time. You had your usual arsenal, assault rifle, shotgun, plasma rifle, even the BFG 9000, all somehow stuffed into your pocket. And yes, the chainsaw is still there because legally it has to be. The plot? It's classic Doom chaos. A UAC experiment goes kaboom, Mars becomes a demon Airbnb, and you, the last Marine standing, have to shut down Hell's portals before catching the last ship out. Sam, the drone, sacrifices itself to save you, RIP brave little toaster, and Dr. Garrett, well, let's just say demons aren't great lab partners. Reception was mixed. Some praised its ambition, calling it the iPhone's first AAA game. Others called it overpriced and underwhelming, mostly because Doom players aren't used to sitting still. Still, for its time, Doom Resurrection looked incredible, sounded terrifying, and proved that even with limited controls, Doom's brand of chaos could still work. It might not top the franchise charts, most modern rankings bury it near the bottom, but credit where it's due. This game walked, well, slid, technically, so the mobile shooters could run. It's Doom stripped down to its primal form, guns, gore, and a straight line into hell. Doom 2 RPG, 2010. Doom 2 RPG is what happens when Doom decides it wants plot, dialogue, and a talking AI that might just be Satan in disguise. Built on the Wolfenstein RPG engine and launched in 2010 for the iPhone, this sequel is turn-based chaos dressed in pixelated sci-fi horror, part dungeon crawler, part fever dream. You pick from one of three heroes, Major Kira Morgan, Scientist Riley O'Connor, or Sergeant Stan Blazkowicz. Yes, that Blazkowicz family. Demon slaying is apparently genetic. Together, they investigate a UAC base on the moon after, surprise, another demon invasion. It's not long before the mission goes sideways. The elevator literally collapses and your team starts dropping faster than GameStop stocks in the 2020s. The plot dives deep, like philosophical AI and moral choice system deep. You meet two dueling intelligences, Sal, a friendly computer who clearly inspired HAL 9000, and Vios, an unhinged digital entity who treats you like a chew toy. You can malloc or delete its resources, which actually affects how tough the final boss becomes. A legitimately clever mechanic for a mobile RPG about shooting demons in bathrooms. Speaking of which, the toilets. This game lets you refill a holy water pistol by dunking it in a toilet. You also wield classics like Super Shotgun, Rocket Launcher, and BFG, plus weird gems like the Soul Cube and exploding sentry bots. Environmental weapons include, no joke, sinks and toilets, proof that id Software has never been afraid of plumbing-based violence. Eventually, you discover the invasions being fueled by rogue scientists, a corrupted AI, and the UAC's bottomless greed. You fight through labs, lunar corridors, and finally Hell itself, where you face a cyber demon and uncover Vios' final form. Basically an icon of sin running on bad code. Beat it and you get an ominous "this isn't over" ending, because in Doom, it never really is. Doom 2016. After Doom 3's claustrophobic horror, id Software said, what if we just gave players the shotgun and no chill? That is Doom 2016 in a nutshell. A full-throttle, chainsaw-fueled resurrection of everything that made the originals legendary, now louder, faster, and bloodier than ever. Forget shadows and fear. You are the fear now. The game starts with the Doomslayer, an ancient warrior entombed in a stone coffin, because apparently no one thought that was a bad idea, waking up on Mars in the middle of yet another demonic invasion. Dr. Olivia Pierce, a UAC scientist with major "I can fix hell" energy, has opened a portal to the underworld, and the only way to fix it is to break everything. Enter Samuel Hayden, a robot CEO the size of a refrigerator who keeps asking you to handle this carefully, which of course means you will immediately punch it. Gameplay-wise, Doom 2016 is pure kinetic aggression. There's no hiding, no reloading, no whimpering in corners, just sprint, jump, double jump, and explode demons into showers of health pickups with glory kills. Brutal melee finishers that make Mortal Kombat look like a slap fight. The weapons are gloriously old school: shotgun, rocket launcher, plasma gun, chain gun, and yes, the BFG 9000, still as subtle as a nuke in a nightclub. The pacing is relentless. Combat arenas lock you in, crank up Mick Gordon's industrial metal soundtrack, and tell you to prove you deserve to exist. The music alone deserves its own obituary section. It's a symphony of distorted guitars, machine screams, and the sound of your adrenaline having an out-of-body experience. Visually, it's hell on Mars, literally. You'll rip through industrial corridors, demonic temples, and entire chunks of the underworld that look like Hieronymus Bosch painted them during an energy drink overdose. The new id Tech 6 engine made it all run at 60 frames per second, and honestly, that might have saved a few lives. Any slower and your brain would have melted from the intensity. Even the multiplayer, crafted with certain affinity, tries to capture the chaos with demon transformations, deathmatches, and Snap Map, a DIY level editor that let fans build hell in their own image. But it's the single-player campaign that made this reboot a legend. Brutal, beautiful, and perfectly stupid in all the right ways. By the time you finish, you're covered in demon blood with guitar riffs echoing in your eardrums. Samuel Hayden betrays you, shocker I know, steals the Crucible, that glowing demonic power sword, and says we'll meet again. You know what that means. The Slayer is not done. Doom Eternal 2020. If Doom 2016 was Doom revved up on Nitro, Doom Eternal is Doom strapped to a rocket and shot through every dimension at once. Released in 2020 across multiple platforms, including next-gen consoles, Eternal cranks everything to 11. Bigger demons, more weapons, insane platforming, and a story that somehow makes you care about cosmic politics while decimating Hell's entire population on Earth. You step back into the boots of the Doom Slayer, now a fully realized interdimensional juggernaut tasked with stopping the demonic consumption of Earth and the angelic Khan Maker's genocidal plans. The campaign pushes forward combat to its absolute limit. Aggressive play is rewarded with health, ammo, and armor, while melee glory kills, chainsaw, 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 and the super shotgun's meat hook add a ballet of violence that would make any demon reconsider their career choices. Wall climbing, dashing, swinging, flamethrowers, arm blades, rocket launcher, the Slayer's toolkit is ludicrous, overpowered, and absolutely perfect. Eternal is not just about crushing demons, though, it's about how you crush them. New enemies, like the Marauder force you to think on your feet, while returning favorites like the Pain Elemental or Archvile get a destructible body treatment. Blow off the wrong arm, and suddenly that demon can't unleash its nastiest attack. And if you die, there's no checkpoint reload, you just respawn right in the chaos, ready to tear hell a new one. The plot is astronomical. 14 years post-Mars, Earth is mostly rubble. UAC is a full-blown demon cult, and the Doomslayer hunts Hell Priests to dismantle their alliance with the Khan Maker. We get flashbacks revealing Doom Guy as the original Slayer, revelations about Argent Energy, the Seraphim, and a multiversal conspiracy with betrayals, gladiatorial fights, and existential stakes. The Ancient Gods DLC adds even more layers of lore, featuring godlike resurrections, moral decisions, and finally sealing the Slayer in a sarcophagus, because naturally, when you save the multiverse, a nap is warranted. And yes, the music is pure, face-melting chaos, courtesy of Mick Gordon, and later Andrew Hulshult and David Levy, with guitars, synths, and a choir that screams metal apocalypse. The game looks incredible, thanks to id Tech 7. Every arena is a playground of carnage, and the sheer scale of what you're doing, from Earth to Hell to the Sentinel worlds, is just breathtaking. Critics loved it. Metacritic scores in the high 80s across platforms, praising combat, level design, and soundtrack. Though some griped about story-heavy sequences and platforming, Eternal also threw in multiplayer with battle mode and later horde mode. But let's be honest, the single player is where the Slayer always truly shines. Doom: The Dark Ages 2025. The Slayer's origin story. Doom: The Dark Ages is Doom forged in the crucible of history, a prequel that shows the Doomslayer becoming the unstoppable force we've come to love. Released in May of 2025 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, the game hit 3 million players in its first week, fueled in part by day one availability on Xbox Game Pass. It's the 8th main entry in the franchise, a story-driven, strategic, and gloriously violent reimagining of what the Slayer's early crusade against Hell might have looked like. So long before the Mars and Earth invasions, the narrative throws players into the war between the Knights Sentinels of Argent D'Nur, humanity's first line of defense, and the forces of Hell, who are hunting the mystical Heart of Argent. The Slayer, controlled via a tether by his master Creed Maker, must navigate deception, betrayal, and overwhelming odds. From thwarting Prince Azrak's initial assaults into breaking free of the tether and eventually resurrecting through a demonic ritual, the story layers high stakes with moral complexity. By the end, Creed is dead, Azrak is defeated, and the Slayer commandeers Creed's ship, officially beginning his lifelong crusade against Hell. Gameplay leans heavier and more grounded than its predecessors. Where Doom Eternal celebrated acrobatics and relentless momentum, the Dark Ages trades raw speed for strategic, ironclad power. The Slayer is a tank in battle, enhanced melee options, slow-motion glory kills, and the Shield Saw, a versatile tool for blocking, parrying, and attacking, create a methodical, violent ballet dance. New weapons like the Skull Crusher and medieval-style melee arms, gauntlet, mace, flail, deepen combat variety. For the first time, players pilot vehicles from cybernetic dragons to colossal Atlan mechs, adding cinematic spectacle to the chaos. Developed on id Tech 8 after pre-production began in 2022, the game emphasizes destructible environments and grounded physics. Creative director Hugo Martin and executive producer Marty Stratton guided the project to combine Doom's iconic brutality with fantasy-inspired storytelling and cinematic flair, exploring the Slayer's early life in a setting drenched in lore and legend. Critics responded positively. Metacritic scores sit in the mid-80s across platforms, with OpenCritic reporting 96% recommendation. Reviewers praised the weighty, strategic combat and atmospheric world, calling it bloody, challenging, and a strategic thrill ride that reinvents and reins in with equal measure. Some criticism focused on the game feeling too tethered to its predecessors and stripping away some of Eternal's mobility-based excitement. Still, for fans, it's a compelling look at the Doomslayer's origins, bridging myth and mayhem. In short, Doom: The Dark Ages is Doom reimagined as an ironclad siege engine of violence. From pixelated hellscapes to cinematic carnage, Doom never stopped being the loudest game in the room. Which entry made you feel like the true Slayer? Let us know in the comments below, and remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for the next invasion. We'll see you in the next one.